Welcome back to the archive. If you haven't seen the first episode, aka May 2008, go check it out now for an intro to this series. The first video for July 2008 involves me calling up Big Pond, yet again, about slow internet speeds. But what stood out to me in this video was this moment about 20 minutes in. It may look like I've got a ball in my hand that's about to get thrown really far, but that's the home telephone that's about to be used as an imaginary tennis racket. At this point, it looks like I've gone nuts or I'm mentally challenged, so let me explain this embarrassing scene. I've been on the phone for 20 minutes waiting for Big Pond to answer, so I'm moving around due to boredom, and those weird sounds I'm making, well, this is why.
The music stops when you talk, look.
Well, I wouldn't call making those sounds talking, but basically when I made a sound, the waiting music on the phone would stop, and I was simply experimenting with making sounds to stop the music. In the next video, I decided to call up a friend to invite him over, but the process I used to call him would get anybody confused.
I'm gonna call Josh, and I'm just gonna open Virtual PC and get Buster up and running, okay?
So I'm using my home telephone, Virtual PC, and Buster. 3 different things just to call my friend. Now that sounds complicated, so let me explain. Basically, Buster would allow you to type a number you wanted to call and your own phone number so that it would call you and your friend, so you could speak to them on your own phone rather than through the computer. And the reason I used Virtual PC was so that I could keep getting the same 10-minute free Buster trial over and over again due to the advantages that virtual machines offer. And yes, I went through all of that to save the cost of a 20-cent phone call.
My phone's gonna ring. Hello?
Hello?
Oh, who's this?
So I call my friend and ask, who's this? I must have had the memory of a goldfish back then.
Is this, Josh?
Yeah.
Josh you?
You don't have to ask what his last name is. I mean, how many Joshes do you think live in the same house? And even if he did have multiple brothers all called Josh, they most likely would all have the same last name. Even Josh sounds frustrated here.
Yes. Yes. What?
Oh, you're Josh. So we're gonna arrange the time when you come over, okay?
Yep.
The funny thing was that after all of that, Josh never visited my house. And you'll wonder why. But hey, at least I didn't waste 20 cents on the phone call.
Okay, right now I'm burning my archive onto discs. Now I'm just going to do 1 month per disc.
Next up, I started to worry about losing my archive if my computer ever died. So it was time to start backing it up to data DVD discs, which worked well at first as each month was about 3 gigs in size and the DVDs were able to store about 4.7 gigabytes.
I think computers in the future will be much more advanced than they are now, and I don't even think you'll be storing your information on disks. I've no idea how you store your information.
In response to the future storage formats, I now back up to a 5TB portable hard drive. Anyway, this video isn't too interesting, but it does show you what computer I used back then while accessing the DVD drive. And as you can see, it's a Dell Dimension 9200. Next up, I had quite a few visitors.
Okay, today we've had many surprise guests, including Owen and Grandpa with my cousin Anthony, who's in there now.
Wow, huge mistake there. That's my uncle, not my grandpa, but we'll get to him in a moment. First, let's take a look at me and my friend Owen checking out some webcam effects. Owen was an old friend from primary school and 2008 was pretty much the last year I spent with him. Anyway, back to the video now. This water effect was definitely Owen's favourite.
So you're in the water. I'm on the island. I'm safe.
I love how I came up with the idea of my bed being like an island and he comes up with the idea of my sand-coloured carpet literally being a beach.
I'm on the beach. Yeah, you're on the beach. I'm gonna fall in. No! I'm gonna jump in.
And although my friend enjoyed the webcam effects, my little cousin Mark got a bit scared.
Look at his hair.
You look like a monkey, man.
Okay, he looks scary. Oh, what's wrong?
Oh,
it's scary.
No, you don't look like that, mate. No, it's alright, look.
Mark's back
cracking you.
And now it's time to trick my uncle with Google TiSP, the fake toilet-based internet service from Google where a router sits on your toilet and you flush down the Ethernet cord to get it plugged into an internet service in the sewer. Unlike my parents' reaction last month though, my uncle's reaction is actually very funny.
Internet is free nowadays.
Look at the way you I used to sell it for free, but it's just a pain in the butt.
It's for free. Google's offering it for free, but look at the connection. We're actually thinking of getting it, but it's a bit of a rigmarole to set up.
Yeah.
You have a look at this.
Have a little bit of a read.
Although, before he's even started reading it properly, his son almost smashes a sliding door straight into it. Anyway, it's time for my uncle, who used to fix medical computer equipment for a living, to react to the toilet-based internet service.
Uses bathroom chiller.
Yeah,
Connect up in your bathroom.
you watch. It's a bit messy though. Keep reading.
What are you going to put in the toilet for?
No, keep reading. That's what I mean. It's a bit messy.
This is talk.
No, that's why
I don't want to see you go to the toilet too.
No, this is why we're having second thoughts about connecting.
No, this is baloney.
It's not baloney. You watch what you do.
There were little cameras in the toilet.
No, you watch.
It's a modem.
It's a modem. That's how you set the modem.
Yeah. Chill, this is garbage. What's going on here? Chill.
No, look, within 60 minutes, assuming proper data flow.
It's garbage.
What do you mean it's garbage?
Putting things into the toilet.
It stands for Toilet Internet Service Provider.
Yeah, it's a beta. It's a joke.
Google made it as an April Fool's joke last year. But you're not the only one who got fooled by it.
I didn't get fooled by it.
Didn't get fooled by it? Come on, admit it. We had you for at least a few seconds. Anyway, a few days later, my uncle and little cousin visit again. What's funny here is that when they first arrived, my cousin was a little scared as his dad dropped him off first, then spent 10 minutes parking the car. And while waiting for his dad in my room, he does the funniest face. It looks like he's just seen a ghost or something. Anyway, the next video starts off like this.
Mr. Little. Can't actually see it.
Basically, my dad tried to show off a photo of me as a baby on his brand new Nokia mobile phone, but due to poor lighting, it just didn't work. And the rest of the video is my dad dancing around like a madman in strange wigs. This is a strange video, but it is my last few moments at home before going on a little driving trip with my friend Owen and his family to Canberra. So I guess you guys are expecting the next video to show off the trip with my friend Owen, right? Well, wrong. Unfortunately, I didn't have a camera apart from my webcam plugged into my desktop computer, so the next video made 2 days later is this. Me standing 4 meters away from my computer while it makes a few device connected and disconnected sounds. Basically, what you're seeing here is me terrified. I went to make a video about my trip, but the moment I pressed record, Explorer.execute crashed, and my greatest phobia back then was not being able to see my desktop icons or the taskbar. Whenever they disappeared, I felt like all my data was gone and the computer was about to explode. No joke. That's why I was standing 4 meters away from my computer and only returned once the taskbar and icons did. Anyway, now onto the video where I actually explain how the holiday/driving trip went.
I've just come back from the holiday. It's okay. It's not like I wouldn't do it again. Let's just say that.
Gee, that was harsh. But back then, that's what I thought of any activity that didn't involve a computer. Anyway, let's see what the highlights of the trip were.
And it was funny because Helen went through a red light and she didn't know, and then she was like, like that, and she was all swearing and stuff.
So out of everything, that's the first thing that comes to your mind about the trip. Do you remember anything else?
And another time, she thought she was being chased by cops because she was speeding.
It sounds more like we went on a bank robbery as opposed to a driving trip.
And she's only got 2 points left on her license, so that was pretty scary.
2 points on your license. Well, that explains why she was paranoid about everything. Anyway, we better move on. Next up on the 12th, my dad and I experimented with moving in slow motion while filming a time-lapse, which looked really weird. And towards the end of the video, while my dad was on a phone call, I looked really stupid. Next up, I pranked my grandpa with the Google TiSP joke, but he doesn't really buy it.
So this is called Google TiSP Beta. I have a little bit of read.
Okay, show me the instructions
Okay.
on how it's set up.
Click on Get Started with Google TiSP.
She doesn't know how to do that.
Yeah, like that. That's crap.
You put
Rubbish.
that down the toilet
Yes, yes.
and you connect it up.
You flush it down the toilet. See, within 60 minutes, assuming proper data flow, the other end of
See,
your
you connect
fibre
the modem up.
optic should have reached the nearest TiSP access node where our plumbing hardware dispatchers will remove the sinker and plug the line into our global data networking system.
Yeah, and the little fairies come out.
And now on July 15th, you can see I've become a bit of a Windows operating system collector.
As you can see, there's Windows 1.01, Windows 3.11, 95, 98, Me, 2000 and XP Professional.
Basically, I had an icon on my desktop for each OS thanks to Virtual PC 2007, so when I wanted to use any of them, they were just a double click away.
And there you go. That is Windows 1.01.
Next up is a video where my dad and I wrestle and attack each other with pillows and blankets, but we go a little overboard. First, the bed sheets come apart.
Look at the bed!
Then I use a blanket like a lasso and pull my dad off the bed, smashing him off screen into a set of drawers. And then my dad accidentally knocks a picture on the wall out of alignment, causing it to slide down. Notice too, with all this violence, that the picture on the wall is a bunch of teddy bears. Basically, that had been there on the wall since I was a baby, and it was kind of just left there and forgotten about. Next up, I tricked my friend Bronson over voice chat with the now overused Google TiSP joke, and he initially sounds impressed.
What the heck? 8 megabytes per second. Oh, that's really nice.
Do you want to order it?
I have to show my parents first, because
After looking at the setup page though, he gets a bit confused.
about the 12 something. Have you seen this page?
Yes.
Yes, I find it really weird.
My uncle visits again a few days later and I show him my collection of virtual machines.
I've got to type Win to open Windows.
Yeah, that's right.
Back in the real olden days, I think it was pretty hard back then.
Well, I used to do it, but your father wasn't interested. I'm the only person in my family who did it.
Overall though, he sums up the differences between the operating systems in just a few words.
It's all the same. They just change things.
If they've changed things, then technically it can't be the same, but I get what he means. Anyway, a few days later my friend Bronson comes over to play Guitar Hero and do other stuff, but I also show him the Peter Rancis prank that I played on my Nana last month.
Tell me what to look for numbers.
I have to admit, that prank is a classic. Later that night, I get the idea to solve the problem of all my archive videos being recorded in my bedroom. Ignore my left eye though, I was just having a lot of issues with conjunctivitis, randomly bursting blood vessels, and spontaneous unexplained bruising back then.
All the things in the archive up to now have seemed to be in my room. That's because, as you can see, the webcam has a short cord. I'll show you right now. That's the cord for the webcam. You can't even see down the hallway of my house. Look, if I bring it over here, that's as far as I can go. I can't even see Mum just in the hallway.
You can't see me!
I've just found on Yahoo Answers, someone's asked the same question I'm asking. Is there an extension cord for a webcam? And yes, there is. Webcams run on USB, and if I can get a USB extension cord, I can extend the cord so the webcam can become out of my room, as long as it's long enough.
Yeah, my idea to record the rest of my house and even record outdoors was to have a massive extension cord going from my desktop computer all the way to wherever I wanted to record.
So hopefully me and Dad tomorrow will try and go there to get the extension thing.
Now let's move forward 2 days to see if it worked.
After 5 meters gets distorted and it won't work.
Basically the issue was that the longer the USB extension cord, the more data slowed, and even with the 5 meter extension cord I was unable to get the webcam to correctly transfer the data without massive lag and corrupted visual and audio feeds. So unfortunately that means that the archive is still stuck inside my bedroom until I get another idea in the future.
Hopefully in a time of the future it'll be able to get more than 5 meters.
The rest of the month is pretty boring. On the 25th of July, I talk about using Project 64 to emulate the Nintendo 64, and then on the 27th, I show off some really awful laggy footage of my computer attempting to run Mario Party 1 on the emulator. So let's move on to the final video of the month, where I call my friend Daniel about a computer issue where he replaced Windows XP with Vista, but had an issue because Vista wasn't compatible with his Wi-Fi driver, preventing him from accessing the internet.
Hello?
Hello, did you fix the computer?
No. I'm gonna get a new one.
You're actually getting a new computer now.
Yeah.
So you have to get an entirely new computer because of a driver issue. If Daniel heard this today, he would think it was nuts too. So the logical step here would just be to wipe Vista and put XP back on, right?
Did you get rid of Vista and put XP back on?
What? No, it didn't work. But I can't uninstall it.
You can't really get rid of Vista.
No.
I'm not sure why that wouldn't work. Don't you just wipe the partition, install Windows XP, and then you're done? Well anyway, time to ask a question about Daniel's new computer.
Wait, are you going to get one with heaps of RAM, like 2 gig of RAM?
Yeah, I laughed too when I first heard that. 2 gigs of RAM in 2019 is not considered heaps of RAM. 8 gigabytes is practically the minimum for a decent desktop computer these days. Now watch my reaction when I hear how much RAM his new computer will have.
3 gigs.
3 gig!
Yeah.
And with that, I'll see you next time in the next episode featuring August 2008.